We're live. Okay. Hey there, folks. This is our special Halloween Fiasco episode. Thanks.
It is indeed.
Thanks for joining us. I'm just going to check. Buddy, why don't you just say so? Oh, my God. Who are you? You are Mr. You're Mr. Mystery, right?
I'm technically Mr. X Mystery. Now it's solved.
Mr. X Mystery. Mr. X Mystery. Can you tell us about this incredible news about the discovery of an ET council? Is this what's your view of this?
I consider it the best of all alternatives.
Yes.
That we would want a watching over us like that. But when it comes to advanced races, you can virtually almost not believe anything for sure, because they can appear to look like anything, and they can appear to do things and be things that would be way beyond our senses or perceptions to understand. So there could be a creature out there that you could see right in front of you that could seem biological, but of course it could be a generated, second generation avatar. Of course it could be a generated, second can tell you that there's a biological species looking through me, but you can never. It could be an AI species.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't believe anything that an ET would tell you unless, like another human, you just go with trust and actions based on actions of the people involved. So I think we should judge people and ET by their actions.
Yes. Now this
so far,
yeah. Go ahead.
Benevolent, if not helpful.
Now, this idea is something I've been thinking about too for the past couple of weeks, Bud, which is that are there already extraterrestrials here that we are just looking around and we're so used to thinking we're seeing what we expect to see that we're not seeing what's right in front of us, like it could be a tree or a rock or something out there that you think you know what it is and it isn't what you think it is?
Yes, Doc, and you have to presume that if we have UFOs coming into our atmosphere, lots of them, that like we've spoken about before, I have that whole theory about as you get closer to the surface of the Earth, you would get smaller craft, more numerous, they'd have to maintain more need, to have a greater need to be invisible all the time, and as you got closer to the surface of the Earth, and if they're in our atmosphere, and they're needed to be seen, there's no reason to presume why they wouldn't have the same, or if not greater need, to be on ground level with us. And if they can be invisible in the skies, they can certainly be invisible on ground level. There's been a lot of video capture of small beat-ball-sized UFO that moves at super fast speeds that the people around it don't notice it. And it's I've done an episode on it, but I believe there's a lot of different things going on around us that we do not know about. Like there's a lion at the zoo has all sorts of things happening right around them that they don't even know about, or other animals.
I'm just saying hi to everyone in the chat room.
Hi, chat room.
Sleuth says she's wearing her cat ears today. What do you think about that? We've got Alan and CE5 from UK. I think Alan's also from the UK too. And we're happy to have you here. Sorry about our technical difficulties there. We are upgrading our systems here. And obviously we had some, as you can see, folks. Hey, Aman is here with us too. Hi, Aman. Way to go, guy. Thanks for showing up today. We always enjoy your presence. We got really close to having everything working with real streaming software, which we can do a lot with, Bud. We could show videos. We could do a lot of things, transition between scenes, but we didn't quite get the mics working. So it's just our smiling faces here, back to old streaming my webcam with you on the phone, right? And we've got Mom here again. Mom, you were a real hit in the last episode.
Isn't that nice?
Mom shared suggested we do an episode with her sometime with her experiences and her interests. And we thought what we would do today is talk about fear of the unknown. Because Halloween has to do with the unknown and spooky things and things weird and different. And we talked about this a little last year, Bud. You remember in our Halloween extravaganza why is it that we attach fear to anything that is extraterrestrial, other? Because shouldn't we just be neutral towards it until we have, or put our best feet forward and expect some positive reaction, our positive interest? Or do you think this fear that we're seeing seems to be coming out of the TTSA and other groups? I mean, what's going on here?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of different fear on a lot of different levels. And if anyone has fear, it's okay to have fear. I mean, it's a natural thing. But something, you feel have a sense of control over the unknown, and it scares people. People project their fears onto the unknown. They project their darkest, pessimisms onto the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true not only with psychic experiences, with UFO experiences, but also personal people with just their experiences. Hi, Mom.
Can I say
Happy
something?
Halloween.
Yeah. I think
Big love from everyone.
So hold on a second, bud. Mom wants to say something about fear because she's listening to. She loves our show, and she's listening. Mom, why don't you come over here? What do you want to say about fear? Because
the other day I saw Michael Moore's.
Come on. Okay.
Yeah, the other day I saw Michael Moore's film, Bowling for Columbine, and somebody suggested the reason the people are so fearful and feel like they need guns is we're being fed fear through the media and the advertisement. If you don't do this, this won't happen. And if you don't buy this and use this, then something else won't happen.
You have to look perfect and you have to fit in and
right.
be the stereotypical,
Because they don't have that kinds of things in other countries.
That's very interesting insight, Mom. Thank you. That was a very interesting insight. So we're being fed fear from the media, partly, Bud?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we're being fed fear by our culture as well, too. Fearful that women should look this way, or men should be this way, or fearful everyone should behave this way or that way. And Mom's very, very right. That's the heart of it. But also, too, fear is the only thing preventing us from achieving the impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Because the impossible only lives in our fears. We can do so much more than we think if we feel like we can fail big safely.
Yeah, right.
Scared of failure of others, so scared of so many things that we don't understand. E.T. was so scared of. We are literally shooting missiles at a more advanced species. In the least, it's a species or more advanced civilization.
Mm-hmm.
How fearful and nuts is that? Because that goes against basic logic. A species or race or whatever it is much more advanced than you. Shooting at it would be one of the stupidest things you could imagine.
Totally agree. Yeah.
But basically, what we're all afraid of is death. After you reach the age of 50, you begin to realize you're not going to be here that much longer. You could go anytime. And basically, people are afraid of fear of death.
Yeah,
that's Buddhism.
So,
that's the point. That's true with young people.
No, this is an interesting thing, but you're talking about something that is very serious. This is a very serious topic because what we're seeing right now is a possible militarization response towards ET since the acknowledgement of UFOs in the past couple months has come out of the military, the Navy. We haven't heard much from the Air Force yet as an official statement, but the Navy has told us they're real. But, Michio Kaku made a statement, I believe, in Spain the other day. Did he say that the burden of proof is now on the government to So
I didn't know that. That's wrong news.
Yeah, he did. He made a statement. He said their videos have come out. The government has said this isn't our craft. We don't know what these are. But there is a potential here that they could invoke a lot of fear. And I mean, this is something that Stephen Greer has warned about for quite a while, which is that, and you just said it, and if you start shooting back at them, I mean, these could be civilizations that are way, so far advanced, like it would be like shooting like your little water pistol at them. I don't know if it's going to do much, but they could decide they're going to avoid us for another 1,000 years and see if we grow up.
Or it could be almost a test. to see when sometimes they put different things or objects in a animal. Maybe it's a test of some kind.
Yeah.
Work a lot with phenomena that has been confirmed by science for 150 years, as I always say, telekinesis studies and all this stuff. It's just empirical. Those of us who deal with psi know that there is some other field, some substructure that connects everything.
Yeah.
Allows you to go to times and see these things. And if that structure exists, this real physical structure, then for certain, an advanced race would know about it and utilize it. And we have found time and time again, races seem to utilize this field to access our consciousness and to do the things that we are able to do, and some of us able to do more than others and have different gifts. But these so-called psychic things are just extensions of our senses that I think we haven't seen in a long time. It's easy to deny grandma's intuition, but then when she's right, you're like, how did grandma know I had a kidney problem before I had a kidney problem?
Right.
And I think this addresses fear again. It's okay to sometimes say, I don't know. We don't have the final answers with UFOs. We don't have the final answers with the limits of our abilities. We don't have all the answers, but that's kind of a glorified position, and it's especially a great position if you have kids. Your kids have mysteries to solve now as they grow up. Mm-hmm. So instead of we're turning a huge blessing of a situation into a real bad situation, in my opinion. We're showing the worst aspects of humanity. We're denying our kids the chance to open their minds up to all of these possible terrestrials to their own newfound abilities. Society's got to do and a lot of responsibilities to rise up to.
Well said, bud.
And
well said.
They say that there is this wall that it's like a Fermi wall, and they say societies get to a certain point, and for some reason past that point, poof, they disappear. We can't find them. There's a weird wall. At now, where we because look at the math. There's no doubt that population versus resources in just scores of years, in less than 100 years, there's going to be tremendous suffering. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be tremendous adversity unless we address some of these situations and look at it, not just in terms of one lifetime, but temporally as a species. What can we do for us, our Mother Earth? And how can we prevent the suffering we know will come if we don't get active now?
Yeah, no, and I'm not sure, why isn't this the biggest news headline right now? I mean, you have the government coming forward and saying, it's real. We don't know. We honestly don't know what it is. It's coming into our military operations. And then you have a mainstream scientist like Michio Kaku, who's been around a long, long time. He's been on a lot of mainstream programs. Everyone knows him. And he's saying the burden of proof is now on the government to show it's not ET or something that really different. And you have witnesses coming forward from the Navy. One just last week with Dave Beatty, created the Nimitz Encounters, which included a lot of great animation. And I did a show with Dave on my channel and an interview with the other 4 Nimitz and Princeton witnesses. And then Ryan comes forward and said, I just couldn't sit on the sidelines seeing these 4 brave guys come forward because I was there at the time. And, he had another vantage point as the lead helicopter tech crew that the Princeton has 2 helicopters, and the sensors were taken out of one of them that was filming the Tic Tacs.
The sensors? You mean like instantaneous sensor disassembly sensors?
Yes, the instantaneous slide 9 sensor disassembly systems. He said, just like we heard from Gary Voorhees, that it is streamed back live since the 80s from the F-18s to the Nimitz and the Princeton. All those systems are interconnected through the so-called, CEC, compatibility engagement communications, or whatever that acronym stands for. Basically, all the systems communicate with each other. So he's watching this streamed live on the Princeton, the Tic Tacs from the jet they sent up after Fravor. And he said it was much longer than a minute and a half. He was watching the whole thing live. And this thing, Dave asked him directly, he said, Ryan, do you think this could have been one of our objects? This was an exercise, right? that this is our stuff. And he goes, no way. He goes, I know classified Navy tech. This was so far beyond anything I've ever seen. The speeds, the right angle turns, and the concern. He said Kevin Day was being called back into the comm room every couple minutes. He was under such demand as the lead guy that vectors out the craft towards targets that they identify. It was the tone on the ship that he could tell. No one had notified them of any test or any exercise. The military always does this. When they're testing things, they tell people it's a test. There was someone a couple of weeks ago in a podcast who said he was on a Coast Guard ship where they saw a 3-foot-long tic-tac type object. It was really fast and it could hover, but they were told ahead of time it was going to be dropped out of the sky by an SR-71 at 80,000 feet, and they were going to observe a test, of this very fast remote-controlled missile. But this is a whole different sort of ball of wax, because this is plane overhead. A lot of people saw it from different vehicles. People saw it visually from the deck of the from the Nimitz and with the big eye. So anyway, he said, no way, it's just not our stuff. He said directly, this has to be a UFO, because I saw the video. But anyway, I'm just summarizing for folks who haven't seen. So why isn't, and the media saying, and then the guys make their ship, they can't operate without their helicopters. The helicopters don't operate without their gear. So the guys ride back to San Diego Harbor and stop the whole exercise, the workup of the Nimitz in November 2004. They're doing what they call a workup to deploy. And they can't deploy because the Princeton has been sent back to San Diego Harbor because one of its helicopters is out of operation. And these Air Force guys get on a little, inflatable boat and head off the ship with the sensors. So I mean, this is like pretty. He said it was unheard of in his 15 years in the Navy. He's never been in a situation where you cancel delay a naval exercise like that. I mean, different Air Force can come aboard, but he said that was unheard of. And nobody at the time knew what had happened until he heard Dave Beatty and the Nimitz Encounters, and Jason and Gary and Kevin and PJ talking. And he said, wait a minute, I was there, and it was really strange. Anyway, I'm just saying there's a lot of things leading to a lot of discussion that we're not having, at least publicly.
You're making some really incredibly important points. And, we can say the government's not telling us because they fear what will happen to society. And part of us can believe that is true. And part of us can also believe that they want to prioritize the weaponization of this incredible technology.
Yeah.
And you have to admit that. Okay, now let's think about this for a second. If everyone on the planet, because right now there is a race. There is a race for this technology. Yeah. There is a race for the power source, the propulsion, the anti-gravity, everything. And it's a definite race amongst the major nations, and they want these. Now let's think about this for a second. If nations have anti-gravity, hypersonic, metamaterial, completely invisible to radar and visually because of the metamaterial weapons, these weapons that can move faster than hypersonic on a whole other level, dangerous point. We have a choice to say, this technology can either free or save society, or it can destroy us.
Yeah.
Because we can't have another world war with this kind of weapon. We're already at such a dangerous point with our society without these new major advancements, where we could destroy ourselves and the whole planet already. And these new technologies don't have to scare the crap out of the government. I think we have to embrace them immediately. The more we keep them hidden, the more they're going to be weaponized by each individual country. But the more a country comes out and says, there's these strange craft, and I know you have these bunch of other questions, we don't have all the answers, but let's research the answers together. There's going to be a race for this anti-gravity and a race for all this technology to weaponize it. But we think this technology should make humanity's lives better. And now that we know there's a big universe filled with species, we know how precious we are. And that fighting with each other war is really, really ridiculous. Human on human violence, it's stupid.
No, buddy, you're right. It totally changes the stakes. I mean, we're dealing with something we've never encountered before, which is a society with vastly superior technology, and you're suggesting to us that they're just sending a message saying, look what we can do. We can fly this way. We can go this way. We can go 24,000 miles an hour without creating sonic booms. We can go in the water. We're in the air. We can do rings around your aircraft and not even blink. And, that's a big one. Kevin Day said that in one of the documentaries he was on, I think it was Unidentified, the TTSA show. He said if they're hostile, we're toast. He said there's nothing we can do, absolutely nothing we can do about the speeds, the invisibility, the sensor disassembly. I mean, and yet
one Tic Tac could take out our entire Navy if it was
one Tic Tac could take out. Yeah, so
the world.
Probably. So that's not what they're interested in doing, is taking us out, or they probably would have already started doing that, in my view. I think they want to make contact. I think they want to see what we've got. That's what I think.
I think they are making contact. I've been a part of situations
that
I've, if I'm inebriated, I might talk about sometime. But many people have been a part of encounters, and CE5 groups will let you know. And I think we have to run to them at this point. There's been many occasions where humans have flashed a light at a UFO. I mean, hundreds of these occasions. And they've only gone back and forth maybe 3 times because the ETs get very bored with our understanding of this intergalactic universal protocol for proper communication. It's not chasing someone with a jet or charging towards them aggressively or maybe flashing a light a couple times. A nice initiation. It's very passive. A photon from a flashlight will not hurt anything. And they're wanting to. Just the fact that they repeat and mimic us is a very major, fundamental form of communication. It's major, and indicative of their desire to follow that procedure with us more. If we were smart enough to figure out how to keep going, and I'm suspicious of numerous different ways and things like I've done with deer in the woods, as a universal 2 separate creatures who don't speak their own language but have their own fears and concerns, how do you get closer and closer? And how do you soothe others' fears so you can have the deer coming into your kitchen like you can see on YouTube and places? And people can do this with animals. And I think that is a little bit of the secret of how you do some of this communication. But I've had a lot of weird experiences. And I think there's several different ways to start. It's easy to label them as an enemy or dangerous.
No, it's fractal. Fractal communication. Yeah. We got a couple questions. We've got a couple comments and questions. Someone says, Mickle in the Pickle wants to know, do you think the government has some research into what happens to us after we pass on? Have they ever gone that far? I don't know personally.
I don't think so.
We don't know. Not official government. There are also these programs that are not official, but sort of are there. It gets kind of gray areas. I don't think either of us have any information. I haven't heard about that. But interesting. And then he says, quick, get Buddy a bottle of scotch because they want to hear, comrade, they want to hear your secrets. They want to hear the secrets of your Comrade Budinsky existence. It's your other existence that you can't talk about because it's classified. And someday,
a little bit with 2 encounters.
Okay, please.
Even saying that, I'm involved in PSI research with scientists, and what's so important to me is the reality of this science and this aspect of our being and our abilities is so important, that research. And to get that out to society. Like Ingo Swann chose not to be an Uri Geller. He wanted to be a researcher behind the scenes. And he feared telling his ET stories because it might undermine his other research. And I'm fearful of the same thing. I don't like talking about the ET stuff because I don't want it to undermine anyway the validity of this other work. But in other words, that standard was different groups and scientists were at this point, and ultimately you have to be your own judge. So I'm just going to very quickly gloss over 2 incidents. One was not less than 4 months ago. It was I guess I can tell you all the details, most of all the details. I don't know how to do it best, though, but I'll just cut to the chase. Galileo Park. A group of scientists had come into town, and I had done CE5 stuff at the park, and there was an encounter that was witnessed by friend and assist, and was witnessed again a second time, and this was a physical entity, and so that's that. And I really want to get into that too much. Maybe over time I will or can or could. It's a very situation I still don't completely haven't put all the pieces together on, whatever. That was one incident. There was I'm not sure what it was, but there was a communication with something, with a very special group that's known, and a communication happened through a device. Let's say I don't want to give up with many details, but some communication happened through a device, and it was staggering. Maybe it was some deep aspect of my subconscious doing some PK on a crazy level, but there was another incident, and thank the Lord, I'm so lucky and so many to have scientists and witnesses and things. You can look at my channel and see, testimonials, blah, blah, blah. There's so many people out there who don't have scientists or don't have witnesses or don't have testimonials, and a lot of them don't need it because they're confident enough. But if you don't have that stuff, it's got to be like, oh, crap, everyone's going to think I'm an entity at a park. Who the ass going to freaking believe that? And just because I also say I have a scientist, I'm certain there'll be people out there who's like, oh, F you, a scientist doesn't mean anything. And other people will be like, oh, there wasn't no scientist, prove it. Well, these people are already talking about it. So what will happen is hopefully history and time will reveal these things.
Yeah.
Like, have been with the case with Ingo, I'm sure.
No, now this is very interesting, bud. You mentioned this to me about this character that you encountered at Galileo Park. Now, this is not the first time this has happened. Colin Andrews, the crop circle researcher, who I've gotten to know over the years, and came up with us on this tour sometimes, and one of the guys that really, I guess he coined the word crop circle a long time ago. He said that there was this, it was many years ago now, maybe 10, 15 years ago, that this woman showed up in Winchester, UK, and she just seemed really different and just came out of nowhere, was dressed differently, and the vibe was people were really flipping out, and then she just disappeared. And it wouldn't surprise me if beings sometimes see what's our reaction. They just show up, and are the humans cool enough to handle something that's a different vibe without flipping out? We can barely handle each other with our different vibes without flipping out. Can we handle them? It's a test.
Certainly what we were saying earlier in the conversation about, do these craft or do these beings get closer to the ground? Well, of course they do. Just think logically.
You just gave me an idea. We're going back to the way at the beginning of the show. We're going to have another episode on this. Because you're suggesting they get smaller and smaller as to the ground as the motherships are up there. They release more ships. Those ships release Tic Tacs. You suggested this about a year ago. We were talking about the fractal Tic Tac idea, but this is a more general idea, is that as the ETs get closer to the planet, they fractalize, and so they could be very small but actually touch down here, and you might mistake it for them for a leaf or a dragonfly or something like that. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I'm suggesting something, not the creatures themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying the size of the UFOs. Let's just talk about UFOs for a second.
But I'm saying they might appear as another object. They might. We would think. Yeah. Okay.
Communicated to that they could appear as anything. And
I totally believe. I feel that's true. I can't prove it. I just have this gut feeling that I'll be doing a video about it.
Think about us at a zoo. The animals in the zoo, we can appear as anything, probably, We can be a leaf and they could not even know it. Sometimes we tend to, or whatever, I think if you have to take a couple logical steps in it. They're kind of frightful and big steps to take. It goes back to fear, not being afraid to be logical. If there are craft that show a great deal of interest, and there's a lot of these craft, not just one or two, a lot of them. Maybe there's a lot of interest. Do you think that interest would stop at the atmosphere, cloud level? It probably goes down to a very small micro level.
Now, I got to mention that Gary Nolan wrote a paper about this with Jacques Vallée and Federico Fagin. It's, if you look it up online, I've been looking at it. It was published on Jacques Vallée's web. It's a paper that I forget the title, but it has something to do with SETI, is the SETI program, STEI, looking for in the wrong direction for extraterrestrials. Yeah. I mean, Gary would know about it, and so would Jacques Vallée and Federico Fagin. They are arguing there that we are looking for the wrong shape. They're not, that ETs are not necessarily going to look at all like us, and they could look like something very different. And SETI has just assumed that they're going to be like using radios and, you know, drive cars, and they're just a couple hundred years ahead of us, sending back a radio signal. And these guys argue this is wrong. They could already be here in another form. So we already have a paper, and if folks look at it, just go look Fagin, Faggin, Vallée, Nolan, SETI paper. You'll find it on Jacques Vallée's web. Go to Jacques Vallée's website, and you'll see it didn't make, no one really talked about this, but these are three big researchers. Fagin comes out of computer chip design, one of the original designers of computer chips that we use in PCs, and creator of the touchscreen. Jacques Vallée, we know, Gary Nolan, and they're saying SETI's looking for the wrong thing. They're already here. They could be. We wouldn't even know it.
Maybe we don't need to broadcast incredibly loud signals or listen for loud signals. Maybe we could just whisper and they could understand us and hear us.
Yeah.
We don't have to speak in colors and prime numbers. I speak prime number and you speak prime number. Maybe they know every language on Earth.
Yeah.
Maybe they can hear us, every single human, when they even speak. Maybe they can even hear the hertz created by your different brainwaves.
Yeah.
Maybe they're like, our cars are smart. Imagine how smart their cars are. Maybe their cars can operate on brainwaves alone. The power of brainwaves can be used in incredibly efficient material, not only to propel the power of the craft, but to propel it maybe. There's all sorts of possibilities. When you're talking about advanced technology, you have to open your mind really big. You have to put your fears on a shelf. If you have a religious belief, at this point, you need to incorporate these things into your religious belief system, because these things are real.
Yeah, and there's no need to be afraid of it. We're talking science. New things have always seemed weird. People used to be afraid of vacuums because they were considered supernatural. Vacuum in tubes, in glass, inside enclosed glass spheres. Those were considered supernatural and weird because Aristotle said there is no such thing as a vacuum. And when they were experimented with by the Torricellian network groups in Italy in the 1500s, early scientists that were interested in pressure and vacuums and thermometers, and it was considered supernatural and weird. Oh my God, vacuums are going to get you. I mean, it's we could be afraid of anything. I mean, think about it.
It's such a great analogy, and I keep mentioning this, that people were afraid 200 years ago of all these different weird phenomena. Walked on the carpets, there were strange sparks. If you petals on a dead animal's leg, it would jump and come to life.
Yeah, right. That sort of, and it was really believed. People believed it.
One guy pulls up all this strange phenomena together into the electromagnetic field. And now, 200 years later, what we were so scared of then, we couldn't imagine living a life without. And I think advanced years from now, this new field, this other substructure that we've discovered that is associated with a bunch of phenomena, wonderfully fits into a new version of an electromagnetic field. Of
course. There's more than electromagnetism. There's other fields. But we've got a question for you. It was a couple minutes back, and I wanted to get to it. It's specifically for you. From CE5 in Kent, UK, who's one of our fans. A question: have you both heard of Project Laser Star Guide? He believes it was used at Rendlesham Forest to use satellites to project a plasma light very similar to our flash bulbs, buddy. Ever heard of anything like that?
No, but Rob, please send us any information that I'd love to hear more on that. It's fascinating. And is it currently going now, or it did at a certain time, it sounds like, huh?
Yeah, it looks like it's something I haven't heard of, and I can totally believe it. I want to go back to the question way back about life after death, the government, researching what happens after we pass on. I mean, there was a
CIA.
What's that?
If you go to the CIA reading room, there's some weird stuff on that.
Yeah, no, this is something I've come across at conferences, and there was a gentleman in Boulder, Mark. I forget his name. He is not active at the moment. He used to do this research and recorded conversations with deceased people, spirits, who called him on the phone after they had passed on, who were researchers like us. After they passed on, they made phone calls, and he recorded them, and we could hear them at the conferences. We knew they had passed on, and yet it's their voice, and they're not talking for 2 minutes. They could go on for half an hour describing what it's like on their side.
Oh my gosh, I have got to hear about that. That sounds absolutely staggering. I've never heard about that. That sounds extraordinary.
Mark, yeah, he would lecture, and I love this stuff. He had all the empirical evidence. They would use fax machines. They could use any electromagnetic surface to imprint their energy on their side. Now, I'm not trying to convince anyone here that this is real, but it made me realize, I thought, this could be totally true. There could just be different rooms of our lives, and we go from one room to the next room, and it's nothing to be afraid of at all. You might not see me or you in this room when we move on, but we're in another room doing our thing, probably doing the same thing, Bud, that we're doing now, trying to figure out what that world is going on. So Mark, it'll come back to me, but anyway. So I've had some contact with this level of research, and I think it's fascinating. It's not something I pursue directly, but sometimes you have dreams of loved ones, pets that have passed on, and they seem awfully real. When you wake up in the morning, you go, whoa, what was that? And you think parallel reality bleed through. It's they're in another level saying hi the best way they can, impressing their energy. It's, it's a little faint, but it's a signal. There it is, and you picked it up in your dream time. So that's my feeling about that. Thanks for the question.
I think, too, though, that the field, this substructure that we've been talking about, I think it connects, it's been speculated before, to everything at every time. And recently, I got asked to do something I hadn't really done hardly any of, is try to make who had passed on. It was someone's father. And in that process, they had gone to, in another country, they had gone to some famous event. It was supposed to be where a psychic would come down and give DVDs based on the object. And that person either had a bad reading of the object, inaccurate, or they didn't get served, or something happened. Anyway, they asked me to, and I instantly got the whole thing. I instantly got the person. I got his background, everything, and jokes that he used to make with and about the dog, his occupation, and that the object, I described the object so incredibly, incredibly well. And it was one of those events where it made me realize that, this substructure can connect to, I don't know how it can connect to, or where and when, but it can connect to almost anything. So, if you're alive at a time, maybe a future time can connect with you through the field. And
I think you're right. Yeah. Retrocausal. The name of the author, the guy is Mark Macy. He used to lecture around the world. Instrumental Transpirit Communication, ITC. His book is Miracle in the Storm. It was called Instrumental Transpirit Communication because these spirits would actually give instructions how to build equipment. And these are people that they knew before they passed on, and they would communicate, and you can hear the tapes. Mark Macy, he stopped lecturing for some reason, but I listened to a lot, and sort of what you're saying, but there was this communication across. It's freaking fascinating. I'm just so fascinated by what's going on here in our world that I don't really have time to do that sort of research. I'm not against it. I'm fascinated by it. I just feel drawn to what we're doing here right now. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's all true, folks, that this whole sense we have of limitation and fear, and as my mom was saying earlier, let's say that all turns out to be wrong, that there is no death. You just keep going in another form, and it's cool. Mark Macy said that everyone over there, they try to communicate with us, but we often don't listen. So.
Well, I did a viewing for this exact thing on one of
Okay.
And I got the mind-based beliefs, but the belief that I got from it was that each person can have whatever they want.
Okay, yes, that's what they...
Back to the pool of reincarnation, they can be on the throne with ghosts. If you don't care, you just get recycled.
That's exactly sports cars. They have things. They basically, it's like flocks of birds. People stick together who are interested in the same sort of stuff, right?
I'm sure.
And so it's just another kind of research that I'm sure we'll get more into, over time.
Okay. But I think it's also too based on, this episode has two recurring themes. It's, about belief and about fear. And, Halloween is so much about fear. And underneath this scary monster costume is this loving kid. And I think underneath the scary costume, universal brother-sister. And that the fear is just equally as based as it is being scared of a frank kid.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bud, this has been fascinating again. We're going to have trick-or-treaters show up here shortly.
Cool.
And
well,
we're
unfortunately living in I don't have to worry about that. I can just drive
we're
away.
going to have to talk about this. I just want to remind people that I do have the intermediate class coming up. If you're interested, November 8th through 10th, Bud's going to be there. Bud, and
I will teach, if Doc allows me to again, of course, free PK class.
This is fascinating the last time. This was fascinating. In the beginning class a couple months ago, he gave us a PK session demonstrations, and he brought his sensors and games. It was a lot of fun. People had a great time, Bud. They loved it.
I was so thankful. It's great to see people have positive results. And people like someone who's watching us now, his very first spoon bending. So that was really cool.
Yeah, and one more thing I wanted to just mention to people before we close it out today. I did some filming with the History Channel in Stevensville, Texas, about the 2008 sightings a couple months ago. I'm told it's going to be on this month. I've checked the History Channel site, and they only have the show tomorrow. They don't have any other episodes listed, but they tell me it's going to be in November. So if you like the show In Search Of with Zach Quinto, you're going to see my pretty little face on there. And they told me it wasn't just for a few minutes. It was like for a chunk of the episode. I'll give you a clue. I mean, props. So any, UFO crop circle connection. So hopefully they did a good, we don't know how the editing went. I mean, they told me there's 10 levels of editors. Anything could happen with that footage, but they told me it looked good when they filmed it with drones, and we had a lot of fun. So that'll be on your TV, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. So, and Bud and I we'll do some more shows, but before that, so.
We have to. It's always so much fun unlearning. It was great seeing and getting the wisdom from Mom that actually was what the whole show was about. Comes in and boom, it was the whole show.
That's what moms do for us, right? They keep us focused on the big picture, and so that's the message today, folks. Don't be afraid. Don't get sucked into the fear, the ETs, life after life, whatever. It's all good. It's all part of the universe, and the universe knows what it's doing. So don't worry too much. Anyway, Bud, thanks again. And thanks, folks. First, we appreciate you sticking with us through our technical difficulties. I promise you the next time we have Buddy on, we will get the sound working. We got made progress, but we're going to get the sound for next time. I guarantee you. I promise you the next time Buddy and I are on Reality's Edge, we will have sound. We won't be having Buddy through the phone. Okay?
And Doc, I think we should do something in the future that a couple people have asked about. They would love. We should do some live stuff that we talk about, remote viewing and some of these other mystical things live on camera during the session. I think we should do that and represent the cause.
Excellent. Great idea.
I'm willing to stay open.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. So thanks a lot, folks. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. We'll see you on Reality's Edge. Thanks, Buddy. And we will see you in the next episode. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.